Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining Valuable Voices podcast with Miranda. I have Naomi here today. I'm super excited to hear her story and what she's got going on. Thanks for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we met in a podcast group. I just love being connected to kind of random people, but right, God's probably like, hey, you got to hear this story. And we were talking a little bit. I just love hearing people's story, what God's doing, giving him glory. And again, just everybody's voice is valuable. And I pray that, somebody finds this inspiring, and I know they will. So, Naomi, let's dive in. Just kind of give us a history of, again, what got you to where you are, kind of a little bit of your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a pastor's wife, and so I really enjoy that. We love serving the Lord in this capacity. And at the last church that we were at, it was my husband worked full time with the county, part time with the church. He was also going to seminary. So there was a lot of things that he was doing. So I just woke up one day and just had this idea. My first book, I write books. My first book was the idea of, in the Bible, it doesn't say that the names of the spies who came to Jericho. This is my first book, Rahab's Courage. And so I'm like, oh, well, wouldn't it be cool if one of those spies was her future husband that's listed in the Bible? And so I just kind of played around with it. And I didn't have any specific writing history or desire to be a writer, but the Lord just continued to develop that story. So I took a couple of online classes, and it was a long journey. First books usually are meant to be your university, I guess you could say. So it was a great opportunity. And it's been published. It was published last year. But my new book coming up is about Ezekiel. And so this is Old Testament history, I guess. It's not, the Bible is not fiction. The genre is called biblical fiction, which sounds terrible because the Bible is not fiction. But I prefer historical fiction set in Bible times. But that's a lot of a mouthful. So I was just reading through Ezekiel a couple of years back, and it was like, who reads Ezekiel, right? There's so many prophecies. There's the dry bones living, there's the wheel within the wheel, there's the Ezekiel 4:9 bread, there's, like, who does this? But it's really interesting because I saw in the first chapter or so, first couple of chapters, he is out in Babylon for the exile. And the Lord puts his message is actually back to Jerusalem. So I was like, whoa, how in the world are you going to get back then? Are you going to get this message of it's judgment time, it's God's message of judgment back to Jerusalem. And even more interesting is right after that, the Lord strikes him paralyzed for a day for each year that the nation of Israel strayed, and a day for each year that the nation of Judah strayed. So altogether, it's about 14 months he's lying on his side, one side or the other. And on top of that, he's also struck mute for 7 years, unless the Lord directly puts his words in his mouth. So how is a man going to go and carry this message back to Jerusalem, or send it back in any form? How's he even going to talk to the people, the remnant in Babylon, if he's physically restrained like that? So you read a little further, and you see that Ezekiel actually does have a wife. So that really resonated with me because my husband is a pastor, and I know, with our last church, when he was working full time and he was in school and, all the things, like, there's a lot that I had to do to pick up the slack. And so then I get to this new church. We've been here for about 4 years, and I just the Lord helped me to process all of that, because once I got here, it was like there's people who are already serving and they are willing leaders and stuff like that. So I'm like, this is amazing. I love it. What am I supposed to do? So, serving God when it doesn't quite look like what you thought it was going to be. So I really, the character just really resonated with me because I've been in the trenches of carrying a bulk of the ministry because of necessity, and yet, of course, the Lord is faithful. So that's kind of a roundabout way, but that's
Very
kind of
cool.
how the story of how Ezekiel song came forward. So
I love that. And I'm not a writer, so I'm totally impressed that you took a couple classes and did something that had this desire. I guess I'm curious, like, do you take the Bible story and kind of make it into your own or fill in the gaps, or how does that work?
yeah, the Bible is my first resource. I don't want to in any way replace the Bible or to be adding on,
Yeah.
but it just helps just for me to imagine the culture, or why did this person make this choice, or what were they thinking? We see it sometimes. The Bible is just very linear, like this happened, this happened, this happened, but what's really going on in the lives of the people? So my goal is to make it biblically accurate and not to stray away from that, but then to also add in some historical context, kind of like, I don't know if you've seen the Chosen TV show or something. Like,
Sure.
most of those are words, the script is mostly from the Bible, but we didn't see the expression on James and John while they were calling down thunder and fire from, like that sort of
Right.
thing. So it kind of is like, okay, I have a better understanding. These are real people. That's what biblical fiction does for me. And I hope that it points people back to their Bible more than anything. So.
And many times it's hard to read the Bible. I mean, again, somebody like you, it seems like you're very in depth. You're able to kind of question, look back. And I love that because I feel like reading your book, I'm guessing we could almost feel like we're there, and
yeah, I would hope so.
that's just really cool. I love that. So tell us where to find your book, your website, and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. My website is naomicraig.com. And I actually have a gift. It's a free novella about Balaam and his talking donkey. It's called On Desolate Heights. That's free to download. And I mean, he's a unique dude because he's in all the Sunday schools as like a hero, right? Because he was, I don't know, he had the talking donkey and he had the message from God. But if you look, he is actually a pagan prophet, a pagan seer. So he was called on to curse the nation of Israel, and the Lord wouldn't let him. And of course, when the Lord gets animals involved, then there's going to be, you're in for problems, right? The donkey, the whale. So it's actually, his is an interesting story too. But yeah, naomicraig.com is where you can find that. And then that's where you can find the pre-order link for Ezekiel song. And there's actually a pre-order bonus too. It's called Habakkuk's Burden. And that's a free as well, but you just have to come back and register your pre-order. So
awesome. Thank you. So do you want to mention what we were talking about earlier, the YouTube that you do?
Yeah, I co-host a bookish podcast / YouTube with Lisa Renee. It's called Behind the Story. We interview Christian authors or sweet and clean authors and just share about their books and what God's doing through the books, and just kind of help promote all things books. So
I love that. That's so cool. And that's, again, we were talking, that's kind of what I love about this, is just meeting new people, getting ideas, bouncing different things off each other. So if you want to send me a link to that, I may be able to find it, but I could post that here too. And that would be
awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much.
But I guess, before I let you go, just a couple questions. I'm kind of curious, you're married to a pastor. What was your life like growing up? Did you always know the Lord? Did you always have that passion to read the Bible, or did that kind of come later?
I became a Christian at 4. So I've been in the church and in the Bible for a long time. And I kind of have a tendency to go towards like the Pharisee side, like doing it because that's what the Bible says, but not having the compassion and understanding. So the Lord's working on my heart. But I always hold on to random details, like in the Bible, like, did you know that there's a with Elisha, the prophet, there's a guy who has a borrowed axe head and he loses it, and Elisha prays and suddenly the axe head is floated up to the top of the river, like, random stuff like that. So I hold on to random details very well.
Do you minister to kids? It seems like you just have such a soft, gentle voice. Like I want to hear you tell more stories.
Yeah, I'm kind of with the kids. My primary focus right now is trying to build our youth program.
Awesome.
But yeah, I've always had kids around me. So yeah, I'd still do with on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights. I still do a little Bible study or super book with the kids. So
I love that. What do you see in your future? Do you see more books? Do you have a lot of ideas, or do these just kind of come to you and then you just roll with it?
I do have a fair amount. I'm part of a Christmas novella coming up this
Okay.
collection. And it's not exactly a Hallmarky Christmas because it's the theme is Christmas, castles, and then you add in biblical fiction. So, but if you recall in Matthew, when the wise men show up to Herod, he's like shocked, like, how is this now? And he has to consult his scribes and the chief priests about where Jesus is to be born and all that. So it's from the scribes' perspective. So it's not exactly a sweet and fun Christmas story, but
well, obviously you sound very talented. I definitely want to get my hands on it and read a couple of yours. So thank you for just giving those gifts and just downloads. It's just such a great way to get a taste and a flavor for you. So thanks for being on today. I'm super excited to have you. We'll throw your links in here and just keep doing what you're doing. I love seeing what God's doing and just moving through you. So
thank you so much for hosting me. I'm really honored to be here today.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Miranda's Valuable Voices podcast. Great to have you.